This show is about your life, how to make it better, how to make more from it, how to love deeper, how to share it with others. This journey is about connection to your dreams, with topics centering on love, money, sexuality, and energy that unites it all. This show will change your life. For years, I've coached people in easy-to-learn skills, and I've seen incredible changes. I'm here to teach you those skills as a coach and hopefully a new friend. Hi, I'm Kyle. Come along with me as you move along your path of life success. Welcome to the Kyle Phoenix Show.
What? Tonight, I'm bowing to a little bit of pressure. I don't normally bow to any kind of pressure, but this will tie in with some of the talks I've given in the past, and it's about the culture creation industry, how ideas are downloaded into people's minds via fiction primarily, using high drama with emotion plus crisis, a situation in a movie and drama, the tremendous method of getting points across. It's almost like coupling an idea with the drama, and it's downloaded like a virus into your subconscious, and you're being programmed, and it's called predictive programming. The technique is ancient, and it's an old science. Plato, in his Republic, talks about the culture industry of his own day, and how it was essential not only for maintaining control over the people by the elite, but that they had to control everything that was given to the public. In other words, anything the public saw in drama on stage was authorized. Not only was it authorized, in ancient Greece, traveling troops of players would come into the cities and do their rounds, and it was compulsory to attend. Everyone, even the slaves, had to attend at least one performance, because just like today, they had their agenda and their schedule and their upgrading of the system, and it was done primarily through fiction, because the old saying is monkey see, monkey do, and we emulate what we see, especially when it's done in a typical hero and heroine form. The male will project himself into the hero's part and identify with the hero character, and the female, at least in the old days before all the vast estrogen stuff in their food and so on, and inoculations, the females used to look towards the heroine. This is an ancient science. It's never ever given up. And actors are hereditary. The families in acting can go back probably hundreds, maybe some of them maybe thousands of years. Specialized sections of society, once more, and they marry each other and intermarry within even smaller ranks. What's more interesting is the producers, the magicians, you might say, who understand and have a full grasp of what is to be conveyed to the audience, what messages must be imprinted in them, in their minds, and he knows the techniques and how to do this perfectly, a perfect science. Now, what's interesting is that back in the 1960s, the Royal Institute of International Affairs and its American branch, Council on Foreign Relations, had one of their international meetings. They held it in England to decide which country, using its film industry, would create the international culture of the future. And this was in the newspapers back then. And it was ultimately agreed upon that Hollywood would be given the job to create the worldwide culture for the general public, for a global society. And it would also be coupled with the music industry, obviously, because they go hand in glove, as Plato said. plus the fashion industry. Plato mentioned that too, and he called it the fashion industry in ancient Greece. Nothing, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And if something works, you don't want to change it. Why change it? Formula of human behavior is just a science. Each part of the direction that you want it to go into is just the ability to understand the formulas involved and then what buttons to push and what sequence. And if it's done in the right way, the right presentation, with the right propaganda, the public will react and do exactly as they've been programmed to do. It's worked in the past, it will work in the future. That's why they're utterly confident that they can change society, even back to infanticide if they wish to, because they've done that in ancient Greece, so it was taught and practiced there. So anything can be reintroduced if it's been done in human society before. You just have to know the formula to introduce it. So Hollywood, this amazing industry, probably one of the biggest exports now, maybe the only one left in the US apart from the military. Hollywood is called the Holywood. Holywood. The Holywood, of course, is the staff of the Magi, of the Magus, the Grand Magus in the occults. He waves a wand and everything is altered, changed. He casts a spell. And it's portrayed even in the cartoons with Mickey Mouse with his little wand. He's dressed like the wizard. And little stars, 5-pointed stars, come from the wand. Earth, air, fire, water, spirit, the 5 points. That's what it means. High drama. And in the ancient Middle Eastern legends, all the holy men there had their staff. We even find it in the Old Testament as Moses has the little contest with the Pharaoh's Magi, and they play it changing sticks into snakes and back again, which is a good trick. But the trick of conducting a spell over the audience is by using a staff, the holy wood. The holy wood also, on another level, is the grove, because in ancient times and in the present times, the bigger boys like to meet in specialized places across the planet in their holy groves. Very, very important. There's much more to this even in Jewish folklore about the groves. And Moses' brass serpent that was coiled around the staff that had made, it's all allegory, of course, for something else, which I understand, but supposedly it was placed in a grove surrounded by trees, and that was a special place for the higher Magi to meet. To some movies will show you the understanding within Hollywood, at least in the director's part. Many of the actors don't even understand it themselves, but the directors and producers certainly do. And some of the bigger ones are given the information and they're advised on how to get it across to the public. It's not that they have geniuses within Hollywood, per se. It's because their job is to program us as we go into the future, always. Hollywood has been an essential part of government, especially in the United States. There are books out on Hollywood's involvement with making war movies. They churned out I don't know how many war movies in World War II. And they had the full cooperation of the American military and the use of squadrons of tanks and ships and everything to make it very, very realistic, to get the recruitment going to fight the Nazis and then the Japanese. Tremendous part of propaganda, and it's never stopped. And even today, the Pentagon admits they have funded some of the bigger movies to do with war and Jarhead and all this kind of nonsense to get the young guys in, recruits. The movie industry is there to indoctrinate you into possibilities which you swallow as possibilities, and then they actually come out in reality. This technique has been used very effectively since the BBC, in fact, first started up as a radio station for World War I, and they used plays and dramas in serial form, so that you should tune in every day to get the next part of the exciting story. And it always made sure that it was a cliffhanger at the end of the hour. And then, sure enough, everyone tuned in the next day at the right time to get the next part of the story. But in amongst the drama, they were getting propaganda to do with World War I and why the young guys should join up and how much they'd be respected by the women, and they'd be heroes. And this is how the technique is used upon the young people's minds. That's why they don't use older guys in the military, except for generals and so on. Young guys think they're immortal. They want, because of the tribal instinct within them, they want to be a hero. They want to stand out and save the tribe. That's what sports are portraying too. That which you see in a movie form becomes acceptable subconsciously, so that when it comes in reality, you don't react to it. You're familiarized with the idea. And in the movie, of course, it's always presented as a necessity. And in other words, all the bugs have been ironed out subconsciously in your mind for you. It's been downloaded into you, the whole idea and why it's done. So this is Hollywood.
I'd buy that for $1.
Welcome to the Kyle Phoenix Show, and as always, I am your host, Kyle Phoenix. And as always, you can contact me at KylePhoenix.org, our new website where a lot of the videos are uploaded, as well as portions of the television show, as well as there's a constant simulcast of the channel that we're on if you are not in New York City and want to view the television show. Because I know that a lot of you may view it through the videos that I upload on YouTube and High Five and Sleepo and MetaCafe and MeFedia. So you may actually want to see the shows kind of live or when they broadcast. And so that's the way we've been able to provide for you, that the cable network has a simultaneous simulcast of the show when it comes on. So if you go to our website, you're able to see it, and it gives you all the directions for when the show will be on. So we're talking about a fascinating subject here. We started out with how does television work? In the last episode, we started out with how television affects people, and even a little bit more directly how television is directed towards people in the way that the news is created, and sometimes how the news is actually created in a sense, and not just news happening and being reported upon. And now this time, this is a great video that I found online that I thought was valuable in the sense that it brought together a lot of information, and it talked about a lot of how television or media as a whole has a hold on people. I thought that was a great little segments from the They Live movie, where it turns out that there are aliens and one of them loses his glasses, and I think it's Roddy Piper finds the sunglasses, puts them on, and he sees around him the truth of what billboards are actually advertising: to consume, to conform, to not have independent thought, to marry and reproduce. That a lot of our society does push those thoughts. In particular, what I really enjoyed about this video was it talked about how Hollywood has been complicit sometimes in taking federal funding or getting things like tax abatements, which means that you don't have to pay as much taxes on things that you would have to, or certain cities and different places that locales you might want to go to in the United States give you breaks on how much money you have to pay because of that there has been some kind of governmental relationship to designing this. What many people don't know is that after 9/11, the government actually went out to Hollywood and said, hey, we need you to help us in propagating, therefore propaganda, a thought about preparing the country for the possibility of war, for preparing the country morally and spiritually and emotionally to think certain things and to feel certain ways. And so there were they had a huge studio where they got a lot of the people that you know, directors and producers and stuff, and they had meetings and they said, this is what we can offer you if you can create certain products in certain ways. And then so if you trace back, there have been lots of war movies, lots of people in things, in particularly a positive American light. It's only the fact that we have a level of democracy, and thereby even a little bit through television, not so much of having the democratic voice, but the internet being some form of an equalizer now to television, that we're able to disperse counter information. So you see this constant battle between televised information and internet information. That I know that there was a presidential announcement a week ago that interrupted some shows, but that so much of the news was packed before his announcement that I just turned to my computer, went online and said, what is this man trying to announce to us that has occurred? And got the news there before it came on to the television. So online is, in a way, democratizing media in some good ways and in some bad ways. But then that does mean that you have to now be responsible to engage with the media to decide what it is you want to know, what it is you don't want to know, and what is too much. So I find it ironic that, of course, I'm talking to you here on television, that I have an online presence, that there are videos now that have, I think there are about somewhere between about 75 to 100 videos that are up and online that are dispersing all over the world. I've gotten emails from as far as way of Africa and Japan and Australia and New Zealand and South America and different parts of North America and Europe and Ireland and France and all different parts of the world. So, and parts of the Middle East and parts of Asia and the Sub-Saharan and India. So it's amazing that you can create something, you can load it into a system, and that system, like YouTube, like Sklepo, like Media, like Mefidia, like High Five, it disperses it to the world. So I have a thought about my responsibility and my accountability for what I put on the show, what the show is about, and what hopefully I'm trying to create with the show. And part of what I'm trying to create with the show is some directed educational feedback around different things that may be going on in our lives, things we may be interested in, whether it's films or food or movies, around identity, around things like sexuality, around things like male identity and female identity for people of color. So that's important to me. And what does that look like? And so as we unpack some of those thoughts, we have to look at the media, because there is a heavy engagement of all kinds of people, regardless of their sexuality or their race or their culture or their creed or their religion, to television. And I am on television, so I can talk to you a little bit about the responsible things that I try to do with television, because this is a very, very powerful vehicle. It's probably even more powerful than I completely realize, or I completely have the capacity to understand, because I've just been doing this for a couple of years. But there are times that I've shared on different shows where I've been recognized in public, and somebody says, hey, I know you from such and such, or some of my students know that I do the show, or some of my students sometimes have been here to the control room and to the studio and actually see how a show is put together, and all the people that are training other people in the multi-camera studios and all the things that are occurring. So that it is, it's a bigger, not just concept, but it's a bigger work and responsibility thing that I'm trying to figure out, how do you transform good teaching through this? How do I present good information to you, hopefully in a reasonably entertaining way? So that's what the video is also a question that we saw before this, of getting into the matrix is what the video is called, of what is the media actually doing? What is the media doing in such a saturation level around violence, around sex, around thought, around false cultural mores and values and morals, that a lot of the things that TV sells, because it doesn't come with a filter, people accept as the absolute truth. And that may not entirely be the advertiser or the producer's intention with the material, but it can come across that way. So there can come across the intention of be young, be thin at all costs, be attractive at all costs. So now people take that even further to things like Botox and liposuction and constant plastic surgery. I've seen people as young as 14, 15, 16 years old desperately wanting plastic surgery, even a couple of them having what I want for my 16th birthday is a nose job. And unless it's absolutely medically necessary, we have to consider, well, where is that intense vanity coming from? The intense desire that sometimes people talk to me, it's a very weird thing, as they talk to me like someone who's on television. And I'm just me, and I'm pretty much me. I'm the exact same way I am as you see me on television, in the way that I speak to people, and in the way that I converse, and the way that I carry myself in public, as well as teaching and all of that. I purposefully try to be the same with everybody, a flatline same. But sometimes people talk to me through their hyper perception of television and the hype that it gives to personalities when television is a big thing in people's lives or consciousness. So that's something that I've noticed that I was aware of, or I was aware of in an intellectual way, and thought, oh, some people react more to it than other people, or some people are more fascinated by celebrity than some. But I had never been on the complete other side of the experience, in that I've made a film and I've made videos and different things that I've done in college, and presentations and teaching. You get a little bit of it from teaching, but I had never gotten it, I think because this is so consistent. This is consistent. So I'm a consistent vision and voice happening on television, happening with people, happening at people psychologically. And so this is probably, we're going to do several hundred of these shows. So it's going to be quite a few years that the show is both on television and thereby in some way reproduced to be online. So after all of those years, there's going to be a chunk of my life, a segment of my life that is going to be displayed to you. Some of my thoughts, all of my thoughts around different subjects. So that's a very interesting thing. So then I'm looking at, well, what is my responsibility of information to give to you? And also, what is my responsibility of what I should do and shouldn't do? So, I could make this thousands of ways entertaining, but that responsible television thinks about the fact of, is there enough violence? Is there enough gratuitous nudity or semi-pornography? Are there enough cop shows? Are there really enough cop shows? Somebody needs to send a postcard to the networks and say, you know what? There are plenty of cop shows. We get it. We get the concept of law enforcement. Are there enough sitcoms? Are there enough silly sitcoms? Are there enough where a couple, aren't we cute? Are we or are we not going to stay together sitcom? Maybe there need to be some more important issues. Maybe some of the reasons why there are some breakout hits is because they talk about some deeper issues that people, or the zeitgeist, the consciousness of a society or a culture, is really dealing with. Why don't we have the foreclosure sitcom? Why don't we have the how are we going to make ends meet television show? Those might be things that people are really looking for, but when you funnel it through a system that gets things like tax abatements for their television shows, where it gets government support or government lack of support, we might have to conform the television show to getting a budget done. So that's one of the things that hopefully the internet first with the Kyle Phoenix Show, and then even now on cable television, kind of frees me up from that corporatized demand